It is Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024. This is another edition of Baseball Today. That is my man, Trevor Plouffe. I am Chris Rose, producer Dan along for the ride as well. I just realized that I did an edition of Football Today and said 2023. So I'm one of those guys that it's going to take a little while.
That's fine. When you write it down like on a check or something like
Yes.
that, that's always the last thing to come for me. But yeah, it's 2024. It's Kobe year. It's T. Plouffe year. Like this is it, C Rose.
Yeah, and it's you and a Matthew Stafford year. So he got right off the plane after beating the Giants Sunday, got in his car and was like, I have to go see Trevor Plouffe so I can hang with him for the new year.
Not exactly. But yeah, I mean they're celebrating. They clinched a playoff spot, and I think he wanted to hang and celebrate a little bit. So he came over and we had a good time, man. That was fun. A great
Wait,
New Year's. Happy New Year's to everybody.
he came to the Plouffe residence?
No, we were somewhere
Somewhere
else.
else. Okay,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
got it. All right, got it. Okay,
Little
cool.
dancing,
Yeah,
a little
nice.
football talk, little baseball talk. It was good.
All right, I love that. Well, I hope everybody had a happy, healthy one. All right, some interesting stuff since we were last together at the end of last week. Big trade as Chris Sale and some cash go to the Atlanta Braves for Vaughn Grissom. Do you A, like the move for Atlanta, B, love the move for Atlanta, or C, a bit too risky for Atlanta?
I think I like it. I don't know if I love it. Anytime you have to give up a guy like Vaughn Grissom, I know, there's been, last year wasn't great for him. And, there was a lot of reports that he was going to be the guy at the beginning of the year, that he wasn't the guy at the beginning of the year. And then he had the last at bat in the World Series and all this stuff. Um, or not in the World Series, wherever it was.
Yeah, I get you.
The most important at bat of the season Vaughn Grissom was taking. But to get a guy like Chris Sale, we talk about this with certain organizations. The Braves are one of them, where they're not really counting on the regular season. They don't really care about that. They know they're going to be in the playoffs. So I think really this is, if you can get Chris Sale, because say what you want about him as of late. Chris Sale, when he's healthy and he is hitting his spots, he's just like a different pitcher. So he can still be very, very effectful. Like he can be a guy that will win you a playoff series because that's just who he is. I mean, he's a long lefty who throws across his body. It just looks different. So I like that aspect where they're saying, we need somebody to come in and be part of this rotation where we have like three guys we really, really trust. But we want to have another one. The depth is important. Starting pitching depth is important. So Chris Sale coming over doing that, I think is great. And I think they really are counting on him for the end of the season and for the postseason because that's what means something to them. But giving up a guy like Vaughn Grissom, who has plenty of potential to be a big league starting middle infielder, like those don't just grow on trees, man. So it is a little bit of a risk for them, but they feel comfortable with what they have. I mean, look at what they have up the middle. They have Orlando Arcia there. They have Ozzy Albies there. At third base, they're locked up too. So they have their primary position players set. So he was expendable. And to be able to bring in a guy like Chris Sale, I mean, you don't get that opportunity very often. I think that he's going to do well there. I'm very curious to see how they use him, Chris, but I actually like this for both sides, and I think we'll talk about the Red Sox next.
All right, so we are, and I'm wearing not a Braves hat because I can't find it anywhere. So I've got my Rome Emperors hat, which is one of my
Oh,
favorite minor leagues. It's the high A of the Braves. Go out and get it. We'll put it on our social media. It's freaking awesome. It is a great lid. I am between liking and loving the move for the Atlanta
okay.
Braves. The money part is huge, right? The Red Sox kicked in 17 mil of the 27 and a half that Sale's going to get next year. I understand giving up on Vaughn Grissom, who we all thought was going to be their shortstop for possibly the next decade, but there aren't at bats for him right now. Now, is it possible that Orlando Arcia is going to go back and take a few steps back and they're going to be kicking themselves for dealing Vaughn Grissom? That's possible. The reason I won't sign off on loving the deal is because Chris Sale's going to get hurt at some point. And the problem is you don't know when that's going to be. If it's June and he's back in late August for a September run that I don't think they'll need, and an October run, which I know they'll definitely need, then that's fine. But if it's like last year where he made 20 starts and then I'll see you, I'm not going to see you the rest of the year, that's a problem. And that's the issue. I know you hate to say you can't assume injury, but you can with this guy because it's literally been his track record for like the last 3+ seasons.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit it on the head right there. You're just like, hoping that whatever ailment comes, because you're right, injuries do happen in the sport. You hope it's at the beginning of the season because like I said, you just want him there for the playoff push and the playoffs in general. So I agree. I mean, I don't like to talk about injuries. I feel like, there can be a change in preparation, and maybe you just don't fall off a bike or whatever he did to hurt his wrist. Like,
Right.
let's just be super careful here. I don't know. Again, I think this is strictly for the playoffs.
Oh, it is there, and it's
Yeah,
strictly for the teams that they're lining up. It's strictly to
it's
give
lefties.
Harper and
Uh-huh.
Schwarber and Freddie Freeman some funky looks because let's remember Chris Sale spent his entire career in the American League. It doesn't mean these guys haven't seen him, right, because of interleague play. It just means we haven't seen him as frequently. So that's going to be now. Schwarber has, Schwarber has
Oh.
danced around in the American League a little bit, hasn't he? Well, no, he was
Can I
team Sale.
can I just like get you like a little fired up real quick?
Yeah, please.
Okay, let's do it. Who was on the formerly known as the Indians, a lefty pitcher that came over and
Andrew
Francona
Miller.
used him? Yeah.
No,
Can you
stop. You
can
can't
you
use him that way.
see the
No.
Braves using him like that?
I mean, in the
I can see
playoffs,
Rose. Yeah.
well, you do have to remember who was on the mound when the Red Sox closed out the 2018 World Series. It was this guy. He was the guy on the mound. He
Mm-hmm.
finished it up.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I suppose that is possible. And it's why I am so intrigued by it because he is so different than any other pitcher that we have in baseball with the way that he delivers the ball. And he still, even last year, was still an 11 Ks per nine guy. So he hasn't
It's just
lost that
different.
ability.
Yeah, no, it's a different look, and especially if you're a lefty. I mean, you can't even fathom what it looks like if you're sitting in the left-hander's batter's box and he's throwing and stepping towards first base, and the ball's starting behind you. It's just a bad, bad look. I mean, if you want to see guys take poor swings that look like they've never played baseball
Right.
before, like watch Chris Sale when he's on.
That's funny. All right, so the Sox they get rid of Sale, but they sign our buddy Lucas Giolito, 2 years, more than 38 million. Does all of this, what they have done in the last week, make sense?
I don't know. I think there's still more to come from the Red Sox. I think it makes sense. I mean, Lucas Giolito is an excellent pitcher, and for them to get him for 2 years, 38. That the only reason they were able to do that is because he had a bad platform year going into free agency. He's worth more than what they gave him. So this is a bargain play for them. He's going to pitch. Unlike Sale, I don't think you necessarily have to worry about that. I'll knock on wood right now. Like he's going to give you a season's worth of starts. And I think there are some mechanical things that he can make adjustments with and kind of get back to where he needs to get. I think there's some arm slot stuff that he needs to clean up. But he'll be the first one to tell you, like, I can make adjustments and I can do it. He's done it before in his career. So I wherever he ended up, I would say, and not just because I know him personally, I just think he's a quality person, quality pitcher, and you're able to get him right now at a discount. So I think that makes sense. I like the Von Grissom move there. They have a bunch of outfielders and kind of like
Mm-hmm.
a kind of like a log jam. They had this one guy named Sadon who came up last year, Rafaela, who's like my buddy Keith Ball wrote an article, said he's going to be an 80 grade center fielder.
Wow.
So you might not be getting the thing exactly right now what you want, but you have some really nice trade pieces that you can dish off and kind of supplement the roster during the season. But I really like the Lucas Giolito move. I think there's more to come though. It's January 2nd right now, but there's still a lot of players out there, a lot of free agents available, and a lot of people that are still in trade talks. The guys that we think are 100% available. It's been a slow offseason, but I like this move for the Red Sox, and like I said, I just think there's some more stuff around the corner.
Well, here's where I think this was an important move for the Red Sox. Giolito, the one thing he is going to give you is innings.
Yeah.
He's given you at least 160 innings in each of the last 5 years. There's not one Red Sox pitcher that can say that. Hasn't happened. So as much as you say, oh, well, okay, great. I'm throwing, the guy's going to give up 40 bombs and I get to watch him throw every 5 days. Great. Dude, that is important. You don't understand the sport if you have to have somebody on your staff that you can rely on every 5 days. And Boston fans,
Yes.
I think, do understand that better than most because of the revolving door that they've had. They have had some high-end guys. They just traded one to the Atlanta Braves. High-end. But I couldn't tell you when he was going to pitch. That's a problem. That is a problem. So part of their job to get out of the basement in the AL East is to make sure they have a foundation to stand on. House can look pretty. They can look great. You can revamp the interior, make it look awesome. But if there are cracks under that shit, that ain't going to be good. And it's going to be impossible to sell. So make sure that you can build a little bit. So that's why, to me, this is a perfectly fine move. I hope for Lucas's sake, and he was very honest the last time we had a chat. He was like, I wish that I had gone to free agency after the first 3 months of last season, but I didn't. And so the reality is that I have to own that. And will I get paid? I'll get paid, but I'm not going to get paid what I mean, he said it without saying it. He knew he wasn't going to get, he was trending after 2021 toward $100 million deal.
And that's what I mean. Like you're able to get a guy like this at a discount right now. And if you look at who started games for them last year, I mean, Bayo had the most innings pitched for the Red Sox, 157. He made 28 starts. Great. But after that, I mean, you have Crawford, you have Houck, you have, Sale and Paxton, guys we talked about. I mean, you need someone that's going to be there every single fifth day. And I think Lucas is a really, really good fit for that culture. I mean, he would fit in kind of anywhere, but for some reason, I believe that organization is going to be good for him.
Yeah. From 2019 to 2021, his ERA was under 3.5. The last 2 seasons, nearly 4.9. His K numbers still good. Home run rate too high. He and Lance Lynn, I thought, were having a home run off at some point.
It could be an anomaly. A lot of things could change in 1 year that. I wouldn't.
He's also a fly ball pitcher, is he not?
Fenway could be good for him. I know in left field it's small, but like in right field and center field, it's a pretty deep park out there. So you pitch according to your park, and I wouldn't be shocked if that number went drastically down this year.
I hope it does. We're all rooting for him. All right, Reds continue their busy offseason. They give 1 year and $16 million to Frankie Montas, who made all of 1 appearance last year with the New York Yankees following shoulder surgery. Does this make sense for the Cincinnati Reds?
I think so. I think you need bodies there. I think you need, depth in the starting pitching rotation. I mean, that's what we say about all teams, but specifically the Reds because of, the amount of young guys they have there. Now they brought in Nick Martinez already. Frankie Montas, another guy, like you're just getting on a discount because, he's been hurt. Like he's got really, really good stuff. I mean, that's in the tank for him. So, you come over and again, reading up on this reminded me of another guy that came out of New York and then went to Cincinnati and had a really good year. Sonny Gray. Yeah. So that makes a little bit of sense for them. Maybe they see a little bit of, cohesion there. Is that even a word? I'm not really sure. But Frankie has a chance. As we've seen, with the A's, like he's got plus stuff. If he's healthy, which they're banking on, it's going to be a steal of a deal. And then, you look where you're at during the year. With signings like this, with a 1 year deal, you don't even really worry about the money because there's not a lot of risk there. But with the 1 year deal, you're able to do a lot of different things. I mean, if you like what you see, you can approach them and say, hey, do you want to be here? You like pitching here? Let's sign you up. Or if the year is not going exactly how you want it and Frankie's pitching well, you can trade him. You can offer him a qualifying offer at the end of the year. There's all sorts of things you can do. So we keep asking the Reds to add starting pitching, and they're doing it. So, I mean, I like the move. I don't know how it's going to turn out. We want to see him in a Reds uniform being healthy, but this staff needed depth. And I think, at this price, you can't really go wrong. You're just really banking on a bounce back year from Frankie.
Except that at this price, I believe he's the highest paid Red for next year.
I mean, that doesn't mean much.
I know, but the point is that this is a team that is really watching its wallet. And if that's
1
the
year,
case,
$15 million is not going to break the bank
16.
On anything. 16.
But I know it's not going to break the bank. But if I'm looking for a guy, what's the one thing we wanted the Reds to do last year at the trade deadline?
Go trade for pitching?
Why? Because they had a bunch of young guys who were uber talented who couldn't stay healthy but needed somebody to lead them. Now
so Lucas Giolito would have been a better fit, we think here, obviously, and for around the same amount of money.
Yeah,
but you got to convince Lucas to go there too. It takes 2 to tango.
No question, and it was another year of guaranteed money. If Giolito wants it, he can stick around. He can also opt out after a year in Boston. I get all that. But man, if I'm paying $16 million, I want a guy I can physically depend on. And there's no way in the world. I read somewhere that Frankie Montas showed by pitching 1 outing last year that his shoulder's healthy. What are you kidding me? You're kidding me, right? Like you could say, I'll listen to this. hey, we're taking a flyer on a guy. We really believe, but yeah, there's a lot of risk. The answer can't be, oh, well, he threw one time last year, so he's good to go. No
Well, that's what they're
way.
saying, isn't it? That a 1 year deal is a flyer.
Yes, it absolutely is. But I'm saying for a team that has been really active, in my opinion, made some really smart moves this offseason, this is one I'm scratching my head at a little bit because I want a guy that I know will be there all, every fifth day. Could they run into a situation where Montas returns to the form that he was out in Oakland and all of a sudden we're like, damn, he moves to the top of that rotation in Cincinnati? There is a possibility. But I think I would rather have played it a little more safe here and gotten a guy that was more dependable physically.
Again, off season's not over. I think when you're approaching, what you want your roster to look like and what moves you're going to make, like you go and say, hey, let's try to have maybe here's a really for sure, high floor, low ceiling sign. Let's go do this. Let's go do that. But you also want to throw, like you said, a few flyers out there. If he pitches the way he can, 1 year, 16 is nothing. And like I said, there's so many things you can do with him. If the Reds are not in it whatsoever, which I hope they
Mm-hmm.
are, then he could demand something at the trade deadline. I think this one's an easy one for me. If I'm a team that has, a decent starting rotation ready to go, but I would just want some depth, I'm 1 year dealing so many dudes. I just let me see what we got from you at the beginning of the year, and we can make all these choices. So anytime I see a 1 year deal, I'm like, dude, great for that team, great for the player. He'll get a chance to test free agency again. All these things. I think this is just it's a win-win move for both sides.
Okay, but I'll leave it with this. The final thing I would say is that it has to be a move. It can't be the move.
Oh yeah,
I've
yeah,
said
yeah.
that.
Agreed.
I've said that before in the offseason.
Who's like the move then for them?
I still think that they've got a trade in them.
Me
I
too.
really
Me
do.
too.
I think that with all the guys that are available, like I don't think that I don't know. Do you think like a guy like Marcus Stroman makes sense for them?
I don't know what he's demanding because I said he looks.
Right.
I think he'd be great in Baltimore, and you kind of I think laughed at that. Said they're not spending anything. I think you can get him on a discount too because of the way he finished.
Possible.
Like, do you think he's probably going to want? I don't know what he's thinking. Like the one, like what Giolito got. I didn't know he had an opt out, which is great for him. You get that 2 year deal, but you have the opt out for the first one. I think that's what maybe Marcus is
Hmm.
going to be looking at.
Maybe. All right, let's move on. Jim Bowden had a report that says Josh Hader is looking to surpass Edwin Diaz's 5 year, $102 million deal to become baseball's richest closer ever. Think that happens?
I go back and forth on this one because it was like the perfect storm for Edwin Diaz to get that money. I mean,
Right.
Steve Cohen coming in, an incredible year, trumpets, all these things. I mean, it just was, like I said, the perfect storm. Now, is Hader going to get that? I think it depends on the teams that are bidding on him and who want him. I could see it happening. If it came out that he got another $1 million on top of Edwin Diaz's deal, same years, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Like he has that not potential. Like he's shown that he is the best closer in baseball. So why not pay him like the best closer in baseball? But with free agency, it's timing and it's the teams that are involved on you. So I gotta see. I'll say no. To answer the question, I'll say no. I don't think he surpasses that, especially the total dollar value. He might get AAV wise with a few less years. I think that's probably what will happen. But it wouldn't shock me if he end up getting paid a little bit more than Edwin Diaz. And this guy is an absolute stud. Go check his baseball savant out. I have it up right here. It is blood red across the board. He's elite, man. And
He's
and
elite.
you know that some of these teams that made playoff runs and had a tough time closing out games, I mean, they salivate at a chance to get a guy like this who's you can just say, hey, go win us this game, and you don't have to worry about it. That's a great feeling for a manager to have. Not have to play carousel back there with the last part of the game. If you know you got a guy that can get it done, righties or lefties, it's worth it.
A couple things. I don't think he gets there in part because of the Class A rumors that are out there. I think that other teams could say, well, listen, yes, it's going to cost us prospects or young everyday players, but we're going to get a guy who he's not Josh Hader. He is not Josh Hader. In fact, I don't think Class A had a very good year at all a season ago. But what he is he's in his mid-20s and he's under control for quite a while. They
Oh
locked him up
yeah,
to a ridiculous deal.
I'm
He's not
looking
even
at it
going
right
to
now.
Yeah, he's going to make 2.9 this year, I think. I mean, he's going to make like virtually nothing throughout this entire contract.
5 years, 20 million. That's through
Yep.
26, and then there's two team options for 27 and 28. My goodness.
Yeah. So I think the prospects of having a guy out there that might be available is something that could keep Hader's numbers down. Now, if Clase gets dealt first before Hader signs, then there could be some other teams scrambling for Hader's services. That's just part of my thought. I am curious about this part. There were those reports that Hader did not want to pitch, whether it was 3 straight days or more than one inning when the Padres really needed him in certain situations at the end. It is possible, A, that's not true. It's also possible that it was true and Hader was protecting himself getting ready for free agency, which I wouldn't blame him for, I suppose, to a degree. But now that he gets it rich, would you want to sit down with him if you were a team and say, hey, listen, we don't care what happened in San Diego. Here's what we expect from you if we're going to pay you this amount of money?
Yeah, I think he'd be very open to that. If he's getting a long-term deal, say he gets 5 years, 100, like, yeah, then it is expected for you to go out there and do every single thing possible to help your team win. So I think they will have those discussions. It won't just be as blunt as that. They'll talk about it. But I think he'll understand that as well. I think he was protecting himself, understanding like, hey, man, like I got one shot at this to really go out there and get what I think I'm worth. And there are times where you do have to protect yourself. We said it about Shohei, and then look what happened. So I know sometimes it doesn't look good from the outside perspective, but you really have to put yourself in someone's shoes in that situation. But if he does sign a long-term deal like that, I think they're going to say, hey, whenever, wherever, you're going to get on that mound. Yep. I think he'll be down for it too.
All right, last thing before we get out of here for the day. Frank Thomas had the happiest of all New Year's because the man is alive. Fox News on December 31st, I believe it was, ran their obit piece on celebrities who left us. And included in that was a former Fox Sports employee in Frank Thomas, the guy who's I think he's 53. There was a Frank Thomas who had passed away, who I believe played for the Pittsburgh Pirates and was a good player, a 3-time All-Star. But he was 40 years older, and he died at the beginning of 2023. Oh, Fox News, what are we doing?
We also need to quickly issue a correction in the in memoriam feature that we showed just a few minutes ago. We misidentified the late Frank Thomas, the 3-time All-Star for the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Frank Thomas we showed you, unfortunately, was also a former pro baseball player. He is very much alive. We apologize for that mistake.
Okay. We're not here to point fingers and say, ha, what are you doing? Even though it was.
I kind of am.
Yeah. The question is this. Is there a little bit of you that would like to have a false report of your death just so that you could see how the world would react?
I don't think so. I don't think I'm into that. What if people react the wrong way and like happy that I'm dead? You think that might happen?
Would you check?
I wouldn't want that.
Would you check social media to see everybody's reaction?
Yeah, you know what? I would, because this is the thing. And I want people to change this. When people are gone, all of a sudden you're so nice to them and they did all these nice things. But when they're alive, you never tell them that. This happened to me yesterday, Chris. I can't call you C. Rosie because people were complaining I say it too much. Chris, I was walking around yesterday and I had, like, I think I even had this jacket on, whatever. I had two of, my friends' wives tell me I had great style. And that they wish that I could talk to their husbands about it. And you know what? I felt great. They gave me like a compliment. I actually didn't know how to take it. We need to compliment each other more often when we're alive. It makes you feel good. So I'm going to do that to you right now, Chris. I'm going to act like you died. Okay? And if you want to do that to me, it's fine. Chris Rose was a beloved man with a beautiful family and was a mentor to me in a time where I very much needed a mentor. I deeply, deeply miss him, but I know he's having a great time up there with his pals, watching football, watching baseball, talking about sports, because that's what he loved to do. I love that man. He raised a great family. I'm going to take care of the boys and Michelle myself. R.I.P. C. Rose.
How are we going to take care of him, by the way? Everything good? You sure?
I'm taking care of him.
Oh, okay. Thank you. That was very kind. I appreciate it.
It's true.
So let me answer the question first. No, I don't think I would want to do that. I'm really not that interested. Um, I agree with you 100% about that. We need to say nicer things to people. I always have been, I think it's important to tell people when they do really well, whether it's in a job setting, if you have a good meal and your server's fantastic. Like, don't just be the people that complain about it. You can complain, but if you're complaining, you better also go up to, the main host or whomever it is at the restaurant and tell them, hey, that person kicked ass. They were great tonight. Go do that. I think it's really important. I remember recently we went on a tour of a college, and there was this young girl. She was a freshman at Indiana, and she kicked ass. She was an unbelievable tour guide. I went up to her afterward, and I was like, you're an animal. You were great. You crushed it. And I don't know how many people go up to her and tell her that. I hope a bunch. But I think it's great to do that. I think it's really important. So, yes, I think that we've kind of gotten off the beaten path a little bit here, but I do think that was a really good point by you. And by the way, I love it when you call me C. Rosie. I don't care what everybody else says.
Okay. They say I said too much.
No, it makes me feel great. I love it. I love it.
All right.
I really appreciate it.
Look at us. This happy ending we had on this episode.
But by the way, we are here at New Year's. Everybody does resolutions. I'm going to try and be a little more sensitive to Angels fans.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I'm not now. I am going to tell the truth. So when people are like, why do you always hate on the Angels? Why do you want to trade Mike Trout and all that sort of stuff? I only say it based on what I want to see as a baseball fan. I want to see him do well. And people are like, well, you don't want to see them sign Blake Snell and all that stuff. Right. Because I think there are other places where he could have more of an impact this year. So, now I am going to take into account your feelings. I think it sucks. I grew up in a city where everybody took pot shots all the time at all of our teams. It's not fun. But sometimes you have to look and say, well, why are people saying that? It's not just because it's the Angels or, I'm using that team as an example. But I will try and be more sensitive toward that while still telling the truth because I have to say what I believe in.
I like that. I think I know who you're talking about. There was someone that commented on some of our stuff saying, well, you guys always say the Angels need to add pitching and do all these things, and they're trying to add pitching, so why are you saying it's a bad move? Point taken, to be honest with you. That's fine.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm going to be more sensitive to Angels fans. I've been sensitive. Either way, they're still mad at me. Either way, they're still mad at me, so I don't even know what to go. My team I'll be nicer to is... I think the Red Sox. I think I've completely written the Red Sox off. I really have. And I like that franchise. I almost played for your franchise. I chose the A's instead, which in hindsight, I don't think I should have done. But you guys all need to be nicer to us. We're just doing our best here and telling us how we feel about baseball.
Listen, I have to say this. When I said what I said about Blake Snell, it wasn't I said, boy, the Angels are moronic for signing him. That's not what I said. What I said is, as a baseball fan, to me, I would like it if the reigning Cy Young Award winner in the National League went to a team that I felt like was more in contention. That's a feeling I've got. That doesn't determine – I wouldn't say, God, that's a stupid move. It actually would be a smart move. It would make your team better. Now, would I like it as much as a baseball fan just watching the sport? No. Sorry.
I think it'd be a great move for them. And I've already bought all the Angel stock, so nobody can have any.
There you go. All right. We're off and running here in 2024. We will be back again later this week. We don't know exactly what day. Might be Thursday, might be Friday, but we'll keep you posted on our social media channels. For our one-of-a-kind producer, Happy New Year to Dan Rourke, and the uber stylish Trevor Plouffe, who just gave my obituary on the air. I am Chris Rose. We will see you later this week on Baseball Today.